Hello, I'm Katrina Barnett, and today I will be presenting on my lesson 2 out of my unit plan. My unit is over first grade patterns and equality symbols. So this is the second lesson. A little brief of it is where they're learning about the attributes that contribute to it's when you learn about identifying the attributes that contribute into creating a pattern. So, yeah. The first topic that I will be going over is the essential knowledge of this lesson. So, the first one is they will be sorting, classifying, and ordering objects that facilitate work with patterns, geometric shapes, and data. That's just a long way of saying they can understand what attributes are going into creating these shapes that will affect the patterns. The second one is the same set of objects can be sorted and classified in different ways. So say we have a red triangle, a green triangle, and a blue circle. No, that's a bad example. Let's do red triangle, and green square. So it can go red triangle, green square, red triangle, or it can go red triangle, green square. They're just understanding that group of 3 objects can be arranged in different orders. The third one is to classify. To classify is to arrange or organize a set of materials according to a category or attribute. So this is just them understanding that, say, I have a picture, that say, if this is a yellow hexagon, so that is 2 attributes because it's a shape and the color. And if you want to make it 3, you could say this is a thick yellow hexagon. So that would be 3 attributes because thick or thin is also an attribute. And then the fourth essential knowledge is general similarities and differences among items are easily observed by primary students who can focus on more than one attribute at a time. This is what I just kind of explained. It's basically saying like, oh yes, this is yellow and it's a hexagon. I understand that there are 2 attributes that are creating this one object. Next are my objectives of this lesson. The first objective is the students will compare concrete objects to classify then according to 1 or 2 attributes. So they're able to compare different objects in order to understand what attributes are creating the pattern. So let's say we have the yellow hexagon again and then the blue square. It can go yellow hexagon, blue square, yellow hexagon, blue square, and that is a pattern. They're understanding those certain attributes. The next objective is the students will label the attributes in a set of objects that have been sorted. So this, they'll be able to label that this is yellow and that's why it goes with these 2. This is red and that's why it goes by itself. And let's say we had 2 blue squares, they would be able to say this is a blue square, that's a blue square, they're blue, they can go together. So they're understanding the different aspects that kind of go into creating these objects that can go into creating a pattern. The third one is the students will be able to distinguish in several ways to sort objects. So this means that they can understand that it's either size, color, thick or thinness, and the shape that are going to create what attributes of the object can go into creating that pattern. The fourth one is that they will be able to analyze sets of concrete objects by identifying at least 2 of these attributes. So, as I said before, this is a really good example, the yellow hexagon. It is 2 attributes because it is the color and the shape. And so it can be any of the 4 attributes of the color, thickness, size, or the shape. But the easiest one for students to understand at the first grade level is definitely the shape and the color. So those are the 2 I would mainly emphasize. If you have higher level thinkers, I would definitely try and get them to do the thickness and the size. The hook for my project, for my lesson, is I'm going to have the students start with a group teacher-led discussion. So this teacher-led discussion is going to be me asking like, hey guys, you remember what we did yesterday? Do you kind of recall on that information? The day before was a Kahoot game. That was kind of their pre-assessment, so it was just kind of getting the students rolling, and then we discussed a little bit about attributes that contribute to patterns. So this is kind of going to be a main elaboration of it so that they can show that they understand and process that. So after we discuss that, we're going to kind of, segue into how we can create patterns through the identifying of these attributes, and we want to know what attributes to repeat in order to create these patterns. So after this discussion, I will be having the students play an ABC Yaw bingo game with the students and the smartboard. And so I'm going to have popsicle sticks that have every student's name on them, and I'm just going to call out one by one to make sure all the students are getting a turn, going up to the board and interacting and just showing me kind of that they're understanding it, or that they're slowly getting it, or that they need some extra help. This is also going to be a really good point to see where all my students are at, as well as the pre-assessment. The teaching methods for this lesson, I'm going to use differentiated grouping, and then I have some differentiation aspects as well. So I meant heterogeneous grouping, my bad. And then also they have another game that they can play. If the one game starts to be a little too hard, we have an Oscar's garbage sorting game, which is mainly aimed towards kindergartners. But if we're really struggling, we can go down to that level just to get the students on track and understanding the attributes of each object for the patterns. And if I see that my students are excelling at this, we can just skip to actually creating the patterns via the attributes in order to get the students understanding and the ball rolling on that. The materials that are going into this lesson are, you're going to need a smartboard, you're going to need access to the 2 games, they're free online, so it's really not hard to access the games, and you're going to need geometric blocks. You can get these geometric blocks on Amazon. It's like $16 for a huge pack. A lot of teachers already have them. Maybe your school can contribute them as well. They're a really good tool. They're used a lot. I was going to get the actual physical objects from Bessie Weller, but due to the current situation outside with COVID-19, I was unable to get those, and Amazon was not able to prime them either, so I just printed out a picture for right now. If I do present this, I will definitely be getting those objects in order to completely present what I need to do. But for now, I just have a picture, and this is just what's going to have to do. This is the main aspect of the lesson, because the students will be all given groups of these objects, and they will go into their groups and start sorting them and seeing like, oh, I'm going to do a group of yellow things. I'm going to do a group of circles. I'm going to do a group of triangles. Just, they're kind of getting down those aspects, and if they start getting really good with just the shape and the color, I will start adding thickness and size into it. They do come in different sizes and thicknesses, as you can tell. This picture shows the thickness of it, and then this one is kind of thick as well, so these two would be thick objects, and then the triangle is a little thin. It's kind of hard to tell in the picture, but so they can start doing thick and thin objects as well. It's just getting them to understand that all these concrete objects do have different attributes that are going to affect what you can do for a pattern. And finally, for the assessment of my lesson 2, I'm mainly just going to do observation. So my plan is to obviously watch the students as they're playing the games, notice who's struggling, notice who's excelling, notice who's kind of like just right where they need to be, by standards, of course. And then I'm going to walk around when they're in their heterogeneous grouping, and then I'm going to watch and see like that they're all kind of helping each other. If they're struggling with something, I'm going to make sure that the students are kind of getting the concept of separating these into different groups and that it's building together to work. So yeah, that's my lesson 2. And I really like this lesson. I like first grade a lot. This is honestly one of my favorite grades and one of my favorite contents to teach. So yeah, have a great day, guys.